Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Hello, 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 everyone. It's your boy Mide. Welcome back to the Football Amigos show, amigos. As always, welcome. Hope you all have enjoyed a combination of week 14 and 15 games. We are excited to bring you our reactions to some of those games. Before we start, our household amigos, amigo Ayo, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. It's a wonderful day to be a gunner.
Yes, and it's a wonderful season too. I would assume. Merry Christmas to
Well,
everyone, and
I
happy
wouldn't
holidays.
extend that to the season though. Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. Amigo Sam, how about you?
I'm chilling like a villain. You know, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Amigos, as always, like, share, and subscribe. We're excited to bring you our personal reactions to games 14 and 15 of this week. As always, was a special week when you have a combination of both fixtures for every single Premier League team in the Premier League. They get to play twice. Of course, they played between Tuesday and Wednesday, and of course, they played Saturday as Sunday as their normal schedule. Again, just to try to catch up with the holiday schedule coming up in the Premier League and of course, or some other leagues around the world as well are doing the same thing. So we will start with our first game, game 14, that was between Tuesday for our household teams. First, of course, not looking forward to talking about this to be honest, but Arsenal did beat United 2-0. Of course, Arsenal played at home, and it was a set piece masterclass. I have to be honest, especially being a United fan. You can, I will be honest to applaud when a set piece strategy works out and just doesn't work out once in a blue moon. It's very consistent. Ayo, you were right. Arsenal did beat United. It was one of those games where I had a feeling it was going to be individual errors at the end of the day, which played out. But at the same time, those individual errors was what created the corner kicks that was scored by Arsenal. Talk to us about that game. Yes, you would laugh. You would laugh.
I personally, it played out how I thought it was going to play out. Not necessarily in terms of the scoreline. I was more 2-1. I just expected where we are at Arsenal. There's just that one goal we can't seem to stop every game. And but outside of that, I just thought like the games that Man United and Arsenal played, from what I've seen recently, these are games that Arsenal just manage. And so even like the last time I remember we played towards the end of last season, Man United had most of the possession. What's it called? And Arsenal to beat them, and Arsenal never felt like they were like under threat. And I think that's where we've come into how we actually approach games, especially if we have our full back line, is that we manage the situation and then we impose ourselves as the game goes by. When the game started, I was very impressed by the patterns of play that Man United showed. I was a little bit worried about how being beaten to the second ball by Man United players, and I thought that was a little bit challenging. It looked like we gave them a lot more space than we normally would the four teams, and I think there's a part of that where it's like Arsenal were not kicking into gear, but also there's a part of that I think was a little bit of respect given to Amarim because at this stage of the game, they're still an unknown, and so it's not easy to understand exactly how they would approach a game. And if there's one thing Man United are good at any time, it's transitions. And so what you want to do with them is to make sure this is not a yo-yo game because they can play that and you can almost never control the variables. I thought a big part of why they did well was having Malasia on the left, was it called? And was it called Dallo on the right? And left wing backs and midfielders are willing to support those wing backs so that they were not isolated. I think Mazraoui had a great game supporting Malasia in the first half and then supporting uh, Dallo in the second half. On the left hand side, actually, it was Mount that was providing a big part of the support to Dalot, and they were keeping the wings a little bit more stable. Arsenal did attack, and we ran Malacia to the ground. And so people were like, "Oh, why did they take him off at halftime? Because we'd ran him to the ground. He had grass in his hair, and he was on a yellow card." I was like, at that point, like he has to go. And I think that was the beginning of the end because when you bring on Dallo and everyone's like, "Oh my god, the game's going to change now," immediately I recognize that that's where the gap is, and almost immediately our approach went to the left hand side because you can kind of admire his attacking uh, capability, but his defensive solidity is not there. We attacked that space, and then it became much worse when Mount was taken out and Xerxes came on. And then we brought on, I believe we brought on Trossard, and I think that's when the control of that game was completely ceded. And so, in terms of the set pieces, I see it as this: a lot of our game is from wing play. We're going to cut at you, we're going to cross, or we're trying to square the ball back. A player is going to try and clear that. You either try and intercept it and clear it goes out, we get a set piece, which we're strong at, which I'm going to talk about approach there, or it goes to the player that it was intended for, and it's a goal. It was almost like setting the team up for a lose-lose situation, and when it showed that they couldn't cope with that, then we went through. Personally, I thought it was a very safe performance. There were two incidences, I think. One from a mistake from Zinchenko with the header by De Ligt, I believe. That was a very impressive header. Uh, Raya was up for it. And also, I actually like the set piece on the free kick that gave Anthony a chance, which he did what Anthony normally does. However, I personally think that we had enough chances to win that game much more comfortably than two. We had a lot of one-on-one what's it called? Chances that were cleared. We had like entries into the box where everyone is scrambling and a lot of last ditch tackling that was going on. And we had two free headers that really Marino and Partey should have scored. Partey should have scored in the first half with just like the simplest of headers, which comes back to the Fulham game, but I won't talk about it. So it went the way I thought it was going to go based on where both teams are. However, I don't see much in that I'm going to like say like Man United were not we're bad per se. Yeah. Mhm.
From my perspective, United they had a better first half than the second half. Personally, when I watched that game, the way Garnacho, Harland, and Mount controlled the attack, it was good. They kept possession. They combined more. They combined better. We just didn't have a very progressive chance creation in the final third of Arsenal. We just didn't. There was no. I don't even think there was more than three shots on target in that first half. Second half, when we changed things, that was when things started to go wrong. In terms of, like you mentioned, in that defensive line, once Malacia left there, it became a situation where Saka would have a field day, right? And then Rashford just not being as focused as he should be makes a silly decision, causes a corner, you all score from that. Again, individual mistakes was always going to be the situation to separate the game, but at the
With
same
with
time,
with the Rashford thing though, I feel that's harsh. Like we could have scored three goals by that point. Like we had missed the Merino chance already. What's it called? We had missed the Partey chance by then. Those were
mhm,
easier goals to score. In fact, the second goal that we scored was very unfortunate for how the ball came back. Like I really do think that by the time Rashford had come in, and specifically Anthony, that game was already gone. I think when the game went was when Mount left. That's when the game was gone. Personally, I don't know how you feel about that. Mhm.
no, I mean it's all connected to it. At the end of the day, all I saw was a lot of heart and less quality. That's the bottom line, to be honest. And I'm not saying, oh my gosh, it was Rashford's fault. There are decisions you make on the field that will have consequences, not just to the game, but everyone else around you, including the opponents as well. Whenever you misplace a pass or you drive the ball into pressure and you lose it, and then you then kick it out to try to resolve it and it goes to a corner, to a team that has scored up to 9 corner kicks in the space of 5 games, yeah, that's a silly mistake you shouldn't be making at that top level. Ayo, you may think that's incorrect, but I know they've scored up to 9 now in the season so far in terms
In
of.
the year so far, maybe.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Like when we went into that game, we won the same amount of set piece goals with Man United.
really,
Yeah.
that's including Champions League.
Well, maybe not including Champions League, just in the Premier League.
Oh, I'm thinking I'm
So,
thinking Champions League. Like I'm putting everything all together. It's been more
yeah.
than 9. Like maybe just at 9 at that United game. But then again, it looked to me that United still have a lot of work to do. They had a lot of heart. I'll give them that, which is encouraging. But the quality just isn't there. It just isn't there. Switching over to the game between Liverpool and Newcastle, that game ended 3-3, which was to me one of the best games that of the week in terms of some of the commentary I was seeing because I didn't get to watch that game unfortunately. Amigos, like, share, and subscribe. Let us know your favorite moments about those games. But we'll let our resident Liverpool fan Sam give us a lowdown about. I would like to know what happened to Liverpool's defense because in attack, Liverpool they're scintillating. That's no question. What happened to defense and midfield that led to that 3-3 draw?
Absolutely. I have to say, I was expecting us to drop points that week, but I also wasn't expecting that performance. It what that does for you is it lets other team think, oh, we can go to Liverpool or we can take down Liverpool and all that. So I don't like that personally. But the defense just wasn't good enough on that day. Joe Gomez had a good game. Had a good game. Van Dijk saved us a lot, but there was no connection between the defense and the midfield. They had Alexander Isaac running around. He had way too many chances. I mean, Newcastle wanted to play counter. I think they ended up having like 4 or 5 offsides in that game. And so the whole game strategy from the very first minute was to just come at us, and whenever the opportunity comes, they are ready to run. Um, it, I think overall Liverpool could have done better, especially when we were 3-2 up. The Keller made a mistake that I think any goalkeeper would have made, but we got to do better if you want to win the title. If you want to stay almost unbeatable, you have to know play games like that. But big shout out to Salah. Also, I think it's not just the defense and the midfield. The defense and the midfield contributed immensely to that result. But I also think the forward just wasn't on fire. Nunes missed. Some of the runs were just not impressive. Um, I mean, I know he could do better. We've always looked at him as the guy that misses chances. That game was just toned down for everybody. So overall, um, personally, I just think, yeah, the midfield could have done better. You know, McAllister is not a defensive minded player. He also left us a little bit exposed. But yeah, Gravenberch just wasn't impressive in that game. I think he's tired, which I
Hmm.
understand with that many games in with high performance in a
Hmm.
role that was not a traditional role for him. But again, very unimpressive performance. We almost had a Liverpool moment, which is you come back, you equalize, and you win the game. But they
Hmm.
were just tired. And I also think how Trent had a great game. I had a great, excuse me, Trent had a great game. I also think our lack of good substitution is starting to, in terms of defense, I think we could have put in Simicas and just change the legs because Newcastle wanted us to run. That's it. They want you to run towards them, and when you lose the ball, they are picking it up like they are taking off and ready to go. So it was a lot of running. No, not disappointed, but at the same time, not impressed. I'm okay with 1-1, 2-2. Um, but it shouldn't go up to that high.
Excellent analysis, Sam. We appreciate that. The amigos, of course, we appreciate that as well, and we appreciate you also. Like, share, and subscribe. Let us know your interesting moments from that game. You always love a Premier League game that ends 3-3. There are a lot of goals for the neutrals, but from a coaching standpoint, you get to see a lot of the two sides of the game where you see attack, you see defense, you see what's in between, and you just get to learn so much. Moving into our game 15, which is now the weekend of, which this past weekend of some of the games we had. Of course, we had an unfortunate postponement due to the weather. Liverpool and Everton, the Merseyside derby, had to be postponed. Of course, that game will be rescheduled sometime during the season when both teams have the ability to take part in that game. Usually, the Premier League decides to have that game rescheduled probably towards the end of the season as a makeup game during the week. So, amigos, look forward to that Merseyside game. It's always interesting. But some teams did play based on their climate area of the city in England. They weren't as affected as some of the areas around Liverpool and some other areas that up there in the north. In terms of South, of course, London area. Arsenal played Fulham. It's a London derby, of course. And like I said, it wasn't going to be easy, Arsenal. They drew 1-1. I actually did see that game and I was very impressed with how Fulham organized themselves against Arsenal. It seems to me that Bassi and Issa Diop, it's a good combination. It seems like they understood each other and they held they held the, not just Leandro Trossard, but also Havertz, of course, and Saka as well. It looked to me that even though there was a goal in that game, it was a true offside goal. That was the right call, and I know Arsenal fans were not happy with that final call, but it was the honest truth. I felt like Arsenal missed a lot of chances as well that they should have scored. I feel like Fulham understood what Arsenal were trying to do and they stayed as compact as they could. And they actually look like a Premier League side that on their day can get a result with the Big Six. I was very impressed. Their fans were always for them and backed them, and it's always a pleasure. They make that team have the ability to take on top six teams and get a result. So I was very impressed with them from that performance. Ayo, I'll go to you from an Arsenal standpoint. Is this a matter of just them being tired, or is it a matter of them not having clear-cut chances to convert to goals, or is it a matter of quality up front?
Uh, so my gauge of when I tell you how Arsenal is going to perform, I always say it starts from the wing backs.
Mm,
So when I watch that game, for me, I'll go back to two things that, from Arsenal's perspective, they can actually improve on, and they actually have to figure out a solution by January and even before the summer. Is just a matchup of Robinson versus Saka. I think more importantly than Bassett, I wasn't impressed by Bassett. My personally, I wasn't impressed by Diop because we could have scored goals just from set pieces, and they were missing completely, and they weren't marshalling their areas. Like, I personally think, like Partey, how he missed his goal chance, what's it called, was sublime to me. And I feel like if your central defense is what it is, because we don't really try and make runs through the center. We make either late runs in terms of like people running from the midfield, or we're cutting back in front. But when you have Robinson being a very quick and very solid defensive player against Saka, the one thing you need to have is an overlapping right. And by the time we swapped Timber, because Timber is really the only fit, what's it called, fullback we have at all. So that's why Partey has to go into the right back position, and you're not going to get overlapping runs from what's it called from Partey, and that meant Saka could be doubled up on, and when that happens, then the left side it goes into play, and all the dysfunction we've been having on that side, which is not new this season, it's been actually been starting from last season, now became the frustrating part of the entire game. We've seen enough to understand that Martinelli is not on a right trajectory. And Trossard, however inventive he is, doesn't have the physical components to run a left wing. He is an impact sub, and I think Martinelli is a rotation option at best. And so that all those things showed. It didn't help that Timber was serviceable. However, his bias on his right foot bias makes him not combine well. You bring on what's it called? Him. I think Declan had a free role because Jorginho was anchoring, right? And so that side just felt a little bit dysfunctional. And regardless of that, I think we played really well. We neutralized your threat. I don't think what's it called? They had to stay compact because if you look at how the game was going, even towards the end of the first half game, they tried to play on and we bullied them back into submission. Like we went this entire game, they had zero point 0.1 xG. They had two shots at the most. One of them was a great shot. The other one was a decent opportunity. But they had to really look for scraps, and that's a defensive unit that has what's it called a midfielder in there and Kiwior through the center. You put Gabriel there, that game goes completely differently, not just in offense, but also just in defense. So I wasn't so disappointed, as well as I was more disappointed in the fact that that left wing has been an issue. Martinelli is not that person. I think we should have found someone like that. Like imagine a Lookman in that position and just the fluidity, the chemistry, the invention. He is just too predictable. He's too one track. And I don't like his attitude. He played for half a match. He was throwing tantrums. Like he threw the ball, got a yellow card. Like he threw a ball at a player. Like he could have got a what's it called, a yellow card second. I don't think it was like anything in there, but still, you don't give a referee a decision to make. Seeing the decisions they've made against Arsenal in that sense. So I saw it and I couldn't be mad as I don't think we've set a baseline this season. So everything happens. Players have difficult games, things happen, you have to like try and win, but you set a baseline that makes you championship like quality team. Like I think Liverpool have set a higher baseline. I think Chelsea have set a higher baseline where even though there's variability and things you can't predict, that baseline performance is high enough to say, okay, you can be champions of the Premier League. And I don't necessarily think it's over, but I am a little bit disappointed in the recruiting because you brought in Sterling. He's not good enough to play. Why didn't we just go out and get someone who could? Mhm.
Do you think that's why they let Edu go? I mean, Edu wanted to go for money, really, but
That was his decision. I don't know how to feel about him
okay.
over time. I mean, whenever we built the entire squad, he was a big part of that.
Hmm.
So you take the good with the bad. I just feel like that left hand side chemistry has not worked since Shaka has left, and I that's what this is second season now. I feel like they should have had solutions, whether in the squad or was it called or in the Premier League. I will say so. One thing I am disappointed about Arsenal and Arteta is our lack of transition threat. That is one thing I've always said that we're very weak at, and I think we need to improve, and we need players that pace and power. Either from a striking position, you want someone who can receive the ball, kind of like how Hoyland does, where you or even Jimenez today, where you kind of you go one on one with a, what's it called, with a striker, you struck with a defender, you pass the ball on, and then you crash the box like that almost like that 1-2 thing. And I don't think that is how Havertz's game, and Jesus has gone missing, and I think we need to find a striker who can do that. So like I think that like I'm not as critical as everybody else is. I just am frustrated because the same problems that are holding us back are the same problems we've always had. Mhm.
Sam, real quick, your thoughts about Fulham and how they played that game. To me, Wolby had a very good game. Again, Smith Rowe, first half was good. Second half, he kind of tapered out a little bit because I think Arsenal figured him out and like kind of stifled his creative abilities in that second half. But your thoughts from a Fulham perspective?
I think they were well disciplined. I mean, I believe we talked about this in our previous show. Personally, I don't think Basia and Diop are the most efficient defender in terms of movement. They're big guys, right? But they don't. I don't think they do well with running and doing clean tackles and all of that. So they
They
barely
weren't,
tackle.
they weren't bad though. They weren't
But
bad.
no, that game against Arsenal, I give
Mm,
credit to them because they were well disciplined. Arsenal was coming up on them at different angles. They were just turning them off. They were turning them off. I think Robinson, like that we talked about these earlier. One of you talked about him. Is I probably want to say Robinson is probably why they didn't lose that game. Being able to do well with the 1v1 with Saka. But overall, I think Fulham is a good team. They should now be. They are probably sitting in top 8 now. Top. I think they're in top 5. I think or 6. I gotta check
I
the
think they're
table.
still they're much lower. I think they're like 8 to 10. I don't remember. Yeah,
Okay.
if they
yeah,
Yeah,
had won, they would have gone up. Yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
me
they
too.
have 10 right now. I saw for the week 15. So I like their discipline, honestly, with the defending. But they also didn't hold back too much as well. Wobie was stepping out of the midfield just to make sure he's putting pressure on the defense. So incredible work from the for the team from the team.
Speaking about lack of incredible work from a team, Manchester United versus Nottingham Forest. That game ended 3-2 in favor of Nottingham Forest. I did not see that result,
I did not.
nor that performance, to be honest with you. Again, things like this I could see happening from a mile away. The question is, who would have made that performance if for that mistake to happen, and why? And are they even part of our future, really? Now, it's one thing to concede 3 goals against Nottingham Forest. It's another thing for you to gift them 2 goals out of that three. Because at the end of the day, that's the Premier League. When you give teams the opportunity to attack on you, they will take it 100% and you will be punished for it. Onana didn't have a good game. Be honest, he's been saving us for the past 5 games. He's been playing very well. I don't know what happened with him in this game. He just lost concentration, which I think long term is always that thing with him where he has this a lot of ups and then all of a sudden he has a lot of troughs and then it takes him a while to get back up again. I think he's about to hit that trough again, especially from that game. Those two, that second goal should not have been going in. For a professional goalkeeper, that second goal should not be going in. I just have to be honest. The third one, you and your defense have to communicate on who's going to get that ball. You don't let a striker of Chris Wood that has been on fire for the past 4 games head the ball across your goal and no one communicates who's going to get the ball or not. And then, of course, you have situations where Bruno had a 50-50 game, played well, didn't play well. Again, these mistakes will happen when you're learning a new system, right? The question is, who would do them and are they part of our system long term? That's what I'm looking for. At the end of the day, again, it's one of those games where there was a lot of heart, but the quality is in question right now. From an Amram perspective, I understand why he's rotating, but I think over the next couple of weeks, he really needs to start playing his first team. He says he knows this first team. I think he is rotated enough for him to start picking his first team, especially picking the best team from a Premier League position because Europa League, we can survive that. Premier League, you cannot be Manchester United and be 14th. Well, now 13th, but still, you at this point in the league, you should not be there, no matter what it is. And then, of course, you have the news today that Dan Ashworth has left his position as sporting director for the club after just 5 months of being there. I don't know from an Ineos perspective what's going on there. I maybe think there's a new strategy coming in January and into the summer with Amarim coming in as a coach as opposed to Ten Hag, which Ten Hag was pivotal in spending 200 million pounds in some of the buys we bought this season, where they're good, but previous buys and previous sales just hasn't been there. Yeah, we're in trouble from a United perspective. Ayo, Sam, your thoughts from that game in general?
I thought you were great for most of it. Yeah. I loved some of your build up, a lot of your build up, especially in that first half. It was scintillating stuff. I like the
Or
movement.
Ayo,
Uh,
is that because it's been missing all season and then we're actually now playing well? Like you're saying that?
no, 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 no. For me, Ten Hag, and this is another thing I'll say with people is like with Man United, the game after he got sacked, uh, you guys should have murdered Crystal Palace. The amount of chances you created that game that you guys didn't win, and so I think there's a level of quality there that just you just can't find consistency. But after him, your build up under Amorim has been very, very well structured. I like the way you progress the ball out of the back when you played Arsenal. I like the way you progress the ball actually all through all thirds, first, second, and final third against Nottingham Forest. I just feel that where you are now, a team that's good at transitions can hurt you, right? And the way you're playing, one mistake can change things. These are growing pains when you're trying to implement something that's new. It won't be as fluid. It won't be as second nature, and people won't know how to cover for each other. So I saw that it happened. Offshoots that were good. Lenny Yoro looks to be a good talent. So far, so good. His game intelligence, his passing out of the back, I thought was good. Diallo has desire for days. There is a future great in there. There's so much that I saw that was positive. The lapses of concentration turned the game against you. However, I thought it was a very good game from Man United. Personally, not based on goals, but how I felt about the overall performance. Yeah.
Honorable mentions before we wrap up today, amigos. Like, share, and subscribe. Let us know your thoughts. We have to talk about Crystal Palace Man City. Absolute amazing game. Crystal Palace, they're on the run, they're on the roll. They look like their old selves again. And back to what I mentioned to Oliver Geisner, he is actually playing Mateta, Eze, and Ismail Assar, and the attack looks formidable. He has settled on a good midfield between Hughes and Mihailovic, I believe, and they are looking like a solid team again to the point that Man City couldn't beat them away. And this is a Man City that they did win their game 3-0 during the week 14, well, during game 14, but then, of course, drew their game 2-2 against Crystal Palace. It looks to me that they played better. It looks to me that Pep has thrown all of his midfielders on the field. I mean, he's literally threw all of his midfielders on the field to not just keep the ball as long as they can, but actually try to create even more chances for Haaland to score. Rico Lewis had a good game, even though he was sent off for a reason that should not be a red card. That was not a red card, and I think it's going to be rescinded during this week. I don't like Man City, but I
I'm
admire
not
him.
sure they can
Why?
because it was a second yellow.
Oh, based on the rules, yes, you're
Yeah,
right.
that was a big issue when it happened, where it's like
Card, they could
because
have
because
tried to rescind it.
yeah, because it was like a red card that had been rescinded on the pitch. Like what's it called? Like even before he left, like they would have VAR would have cancelled it. But I think because that's why they couldn't do anything. I don't think
Hmm.
that's why it can be appealed either. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, but again, scintillating game. We'll see where Man City end up during the end of the season. They're having a very interesting time right now. But to wrap up, we have to talk about Spurs. I need to hear from from Ayo and Sam. We have to talk about Spurs. Again, Spurs were leading twice and ended up losing 3-2. At this point, I have to be honest. I don't think it's the coach. I think it's the players' mentality. I really think so. I don't think the coach would send them out there to start making silly mistakes or lose concentration. I think it's the mentality of that team where they're so Spursy, they don't believe in themselves. They don't hold games with their grabs. How can you beat Man City and then you lose to Chelsea when you were beating them from the first half? I don't get that. Ayo, we'll start with you. What the heck happened to Tottenham?
God, I oh, I love it and I hate it at the same time.
Talking from an Arsenal fan, amigos.
Yeah, it's like I mean it's funny as an Arsenal fan to watch them yo-yo this badly, but as someone who wants to win the league, like I want someone to like stop Chelsea before they get too much momentum, and so that part like disappoints. But in their favor, Romero got injured, Van der Van got injured, Johnson got injured in the same game. Light squad. So that part I can't blame them too much. However, from a mental side, they look brittle. They look easy to break. You turn pressure up, they crumble. And I think that has to come from the coach. I think it's a coach that instills a resilient mentality. Yeah, after this long, if this was the first season, I could say that. After this long, I think it has to lie in the coach. Yeah, I was like, so he has his part to blame. However, I understand because everything comes from your defense. If your defense is not stable, you fall apart. You start getting key injuries. Romero was barely fit. He came into this game immediately out. Van der Van, who is a big part of them being able to play high, can't stay fit, right? And so you're going back, and then just the cacophony of these things and errors. So on one part, I feel for him in terms of the level of injuries, but at some point they've gained the reputation of being weak, and when you are weak, you get that reputation. Opponents will test you.
Is it
Uh,
weak mentally or
They
weak
break
in
easy.
carrying out performances?
They break easy. They break easy. I've never seen a team capitulate that fast. Like it wasn't when I was joking with you when they beat Man United. What's it called 3-0? I was like, without that, was it a red card you guys got? Was it Fernandez that got a red card? I was like, without a red card, I was like, I'm pretty sure Man United have come back.
Mhm.
I'm serious. Yeah,
Yeah,
because they were competitive with 10 men down. So I think that's a problem. And now I would say I understand the injury crisis, but I think the coach is to blame as well.
Sam, why is Chelsea looking like a potential Premier League winning team all of a sudden?
I'll answer that in a second, but let me jump on that Tottenham. I believe the coach has a little bit to do, but overall, they just never been a well disciplined uh team when it comes to defense. Even when they had Romero, just one or two mistakes. When you look at the two penalties that they gave out in that game, just silly. The first one was just Bissouma was not having the greatest game in that game, anyways. Um, so that slide was just give yourself some opportunity to compete. Try to even slow him down, do a little, see if he can dribble you.
Mm.
No, you are
Stay on your
two
feet,
two
basically.
zero up, or was it 2-1 at the time, or
Two,
2-2?
2-1.
2-1, yeah.
It
Hmm.
was just unnecessary. The second one was like, come on, why would you?
Was it in
Come on.
Dogi? The one that Dogi did?
No, it was I think what's the gentleman's name? He's not Sa. I forgot his name, but it's not Ndogi. But big credit to Chelsea. And the other thing that I think has been killing Tottenham is you think they have good forward. Yes, Brendan Johnson is fast, outstanding. Son is fast, amazing. Kulusevski. But start looking at their games. They're actually a little selfish among each other. They want to shoot from some weird range. That game they were just trying to shoot at some point. Like I'm like, just pass the ball. So they could have gone up, kept the game like 3-1 at that time, but they just won't pass to each other. The two people that will pass a lot of time will be Brandon Johnson and what's his son. Dom Solanke too has some chances. It could have put away. It didn't. It didn't. And of course, they have Tim Warner or whatever his name is, just not worthy of any game time in Premier League right now. He's a fine guy, but his game is just not fine. And I'm not
Except
upset.
against Man City in his world class. Yeah.
But big credit to Chelsea. And to go back to your question, why is Chelsea winning? You have to look at it when we were all talking about how stacked their team was in the beginning of the season. And my prediction in the beginning of the season was when Chelsea find the balance, they're going to be brutal. And that's what we're seeing now. They have Cole Palmer being on fire. There's a lot of changes around him, but Cole Palmer is being able to play well with these changes. Madueke is there. There's no Madueke. Cole Palmer is the key thing around that team. And as crazy as it sounds, the next person that I really don't like, but I think is very pivotal to Chelsea is the captain. What's his name?
Enzo
Enzo.
Fernandez.
Very, very versatile.
Yeah.
Very, 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 very versatile. The way he moves is incredible. And it gives you these. Oh, I'm in the midfield, but I'm also tracking back. But if you play around too much, when I get the ball, I will find that pass and I will, make it count. Cole Palmer is going to know that I'm on this field. So the reason why Chelsea has been successful, they have a good rotation, and I have to say, yeah, I watched he's a Latvia, but if the guy that is not been able to feature since they got him, I watch him play in the last two games. I'm like, okay, I see why Liverpool was going after this guy. So it is expected that they will get better. In my own, the way I analyze them. But the key thing is Cole Palmer, Enzo, and they are also improving with their defensive discipline. They have some good guys, but whoever shows up, well disciplined guys. So those are key things. When your midfielder is consistent, Jackson is also a little more selfless now. What you will get is a Kopama that any chance he gets is trying to find a pass or kill you with 1v1. And you have, when you go to that midweek game, even Jordan Sancho, everybody's ready. Everybody's ready. It's all about the quality of the players they have and being able to play together. I'm just impressed by them. In as much that I don't like Chelsea, I think they have a thing going on, and we should definitely not undermine them. They are definitely a strong runner up. Honestly, respectfully to Arsenal.
And I
Yeah,
go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
I think so. It's like the biggest part for me is Caicedo and Lavia. Last season, they were both injured for a long time. Caicedo was playing himself back from injury, and that's why you didn't see the best of him this season. He has hit the ground running. And Lavia, because you bring in a really, really stable, controlled people to anchor that midfield, and there's stability and that's a platform to build. When those guys were not available, that's when you got a lot more chaotic games. And now they're actually able to approach games in a much more controlled manner. And when you have that, they have attacking talent to the wazoo. And those people are now being platformed. Like if Madrid can't do it, Neto will do it. If was that guy who would never do it? Ukraine. Modric will not do it.
Yeah.
Sancho is ready. If these guys are not there, Felix is waiting to do it. And so it is a beyond stacked attack, but most importantly, that those anchors are fit and firing. And so you can tell Caicedo is there. You move Lavia out, Caicedo anchors that midfield. And I don't think there's a better anchor right now, balanced anchor like Caicedo. He is like I thought maybe his season was it Brighton was a one season wonder, and it's not. He's incredible. Yeah.
It's interesting how that team is so balanced to the point that Enzo Maresca, what he does as the coach, he plays the same players in the Premier League every week, and then he plays a completely different team in their Europa Conference, and everyone gets to play. Like really, I've actually been watching some of their highlights lately in Europa Conference League, and everyone. When I say everyone gets to play, it means those that didn't play in the Premier League will definitely play in that Europa League Cup Conference League, and I've just been very impressed with Chelsea. I really have, and let's see where they are in March. it will make the Premier League very interesting. Amigos, like,
If
share, and
I
subscribe.
can,
Go
I
ahead.
think we should actually have higher expectation for them, and
Really?
actually, I actually see them winning one or two trophy this season. The reason being is going back to what you just said. They have the team stacked, and they have a team that plays this competition majorly. Most of these players play these competitions. There's some that go back and forth in between competition, like Sancho played in their recent game. He was also featured in the midweek game as well. But the key thing is they are not so tired. But the other key thing is they are talented players that they have stacked up. So we should expect a lot more from them, and I won't be surprised if they're even like going back and back to back against Liverpool when it comes to the title.
Are your final
Of
thoughts?
of all the teams playing and competing for I guess of the two teams at this moment competing for they have the lighter schedule. Like, because when we say the Europa game and they're switching their team, is like I looked at their schedule next week. They're playing like Asana from Kazakhstan. Like I didn't even know Kazakhstan had what's it called? Uh,
You can only play who's in front of you, though. I mean,
to a level. Mm. And so most of their midweek games are really just training exercises. And so when you see that, then your team can be fit because like your actual squad that you're relying on is just playing week to week. That's not the same thing that's happening to Liverpool. That's not the same thing that's happening to Arsenal. That's not the same what's it called thing that's happening to Man City because of the level of competition they have to. Like Arsenal has to go next week and play. I think was it Monaco. I think we're
yes.
playing next week. Like I don't know who Liverpool is playing, but I'm sure that's going to be a killer. Like is it Juventus or something like that?
Yeah, some big
Yeah,
team.
like and so you're not like, oh, I'm going to rotate everybody now and like and go and play like Juventus and not
No,
like expect to be like, they have to play Real Madrid.
the competitive level is different from a rotational standpoint.
And so the demand on their team is not as much, and I think that helps. And so this is for them. I don't necessarily see them winning, but like Simon's right about the club should be something that they should go for. But I do think their schedule compared to everybody that's competing is different and significantly so. Yeah. Mhm.
Speaking of significance, amigos, you are very significant to us. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope you have a wonderful week. Look forward to our Game 16 predictions coming up in our next content. Thank you so much for liking, subscribing, and sharing our videos. Happy holidays, and we will talk to you all soon. Take care, guys. Stay positive.
Let's just be playing with Christmas song. It's not.
Okay.
It's
I mean,
not.
we can change it for Christmas. I'm fine with that. We could change it for Christmas. I mean, it's festive.
Let's try. Let's
So that
try one
so that we
this
know
one.
it's only during Christmas time. Maybe that's towards the end of the season.
All right, let's. It's a Christmas. Let's go to Christmas.
Let's do the Christmas one.
This is like hip hop.
I know you did that was the
Dangling, dangling. All right, let's